If I hadn't come home early that day, I never would have known what she was hiding, and maybe part of me wishes I hadn't. Started like any other Friday. I was dressed in a navy suit I could barely afford, carrying 2 presentations in my bag, and begging, for the promotion I'd been working toward for nearly 3 years. The one I'd stayed late for, skipped weekends for, the one that was going to change everything for me and Alyssa, my wife. I walked into the office with purpose. But by 10:47 a.m., I already knew something was off. Our manager, Mark Carter, my direct boss, was being weird. He barely looked at me during the meeting, didn't even mention the promotion. And then, halfway through, he handed a folder to Kevin, the guy who started 6 months ago, and said, "Congratulations. You've earned it." I sat there stunned. I didn't say anything. I didn't want to lose my job on top of the promotion, but I felt my stomach drop straight to the floor. Kevin? The guy who left early twice a week? When the meeting ended, Mark clapped me on the back and said, "You've got potential, kid. Keep grinding." Grinding? I'd been bleeding for that job. I didn't even clean up my desk. I just walked out. The humiliation, the confusion, it was too much. So I went home. Middle of the day. That's when everything changed. The moment I stepped inside, I heard a noise upstairs. Not just a sound. A voice. A laugh. Her laugh. Alyssa's. Followed by his. I froze in place, my heart slamming in my chest. I knew that voice. I dropped my bag, my body moving on autopilot as I climbed the stairs. Our bedroom door was halfway open. I pushed it gently, and there they were. My wife, naked, straddling my boss, Mark Carter. The man who had just looked me in the eyes and said I had potential. The man who had just handed my future to someone else. He didn't even flinch when he saw me, just smirked like he'd won some private game I didn't know I was playing. But it was Alyssa's voice that broke me. She didn't scream. She didn't cover herself. She just stared at me cold and said, "He gives me something you never could, power." I didn't say a word. Couldn't. I stood there in the doorway like a ghost, watching my wife, my fking wife ***, slide a silk sheet up over her chest like it was some casual Sunday morning. Mark didn't even bother covering himself. He just sat there, smug, shirtless, grinning like he was untouchable. Alyssa turned to him and laughed. She laughed, like I was some pathetic intruder in my own life. I finally managed to speak, my voice low and cracking. "How long?" She didn't blink. "Does it matter?" I clenched the doorframe to keep from putting my fist through the wall. "How long, Alyssa?" She sighed, like I was boring her. "Almost a year. A year. While I was working late nights trying to impress this man. While I skipped vacations, dinners, entire weekends to build a career. She was screwing the very person who held my future in his hands." I turned to Mark. "So what was this? Some game? Give my promotion to Kevin, so you could keep ***king my wife." He smirked. "Kevin earned it." Then he looked at Alyssa. "And she's earned a lot too." That was it. I snapped. I lunged toward him, but Alyssa threw herself between us, palms against my chest. "Don't be stupid," she hissed. "Hit him and you lose everything." I froze. My hands were trembling, my breathing ragged. "Everything? What exactly do I have left, Alyssa?" Her voice dropped to a whisper. "Not much." She stepped back, wrapped the sheet tighter around her, and stared at me like I was some wounded animal. "You were never going to win, Ethan. You just never had the leverage." Mark stood up behind her, buttoning his shirt like this was all routine. "You're smart, Ethan," he said coolly. "Don't blow up your life over something you can't control." I looked at both of them, my boss and my wife, standing in my bedroom in my home, telling me I never had control to begin with. And the worst part? They were right. That's when Alyssa turned, walked over to my closet, and pulled out a folder. My work folder. She handed it to Mark. I blinked. "What the hell is that?" She smiled sweetly. "Oh, just a copy of your pitch deck." Mark wanted to see it. My pitch. The one I'd been working on in secret for months. The pitch I planned to use to leverage a better position at the firm. Mark flipped through it, nodding. This is good. Kevin's gonna love presenting it Monday. My hands went numb. They stole my work. They stole my job. They stole my ***king life. Alyssa stepped close again, voice low and intimate. You were always chasing something, Ethan. I just got tired of waiting for you to catch up. And then she whispered, so only I could hear it. Sometimes you have to sleep your way to the top. Too bad you're not at the top of anything. I backed away, down the stairs, out the door, into the car. My vision was blurry. My chest was caving in, and my whole ***king world was on fire. I drove without direction, and I realized something terrifying. They didn't just betray me. They planned it. I drove for hours. I don't even remember how I got to the motel. One of those off-highway places with flickering neon signs and cigarette burns in the carpet. But at least it was quiet. I stared at the ceiling, still in my wrinkled suit. Mark's words ringing in my ears. Don't blow up your life over something you can't control. But the truth was, I never had control to begin with. I gave Alyssa my time, my trust, my future. She gave herself to the man who made my life a living hell. But it wasn't just the betrayal that haunted me. It was the look in her eyes. Cold, strategic, unapologetic. This wasn't lust. It wasn't passion. It was power. And I needed to know how deep it went. The next morning I went back to the office, not to work, to hunt. Kevin was already at Mark's side, smiling like he'd won the lottery. But I wasn't looking at him. I was watching HR. I walked up to Helen, one of the admin assistants I'd known for years. Hey, I said, forcing a smile. Do you know when those promotion evaluations were filed? She frowned. They were finalized over a month ago. Why? My blood ran cold. A month ago? Yeah. Kevin was marked for leadership track almost 6 weeks before the official meeting. Mark fast-tracked it. 6 weeks ago. 6 weeks ago, I had noticed Alyssa acting strange. Late-night texts, a business trip that didn't make sense. And now it all fit together. Mark didn't just start sleeping with my wife. He promoted Kevin to keep me blind. I checked the timestamp on the file. And that's when I saw something else. The pitch deck. My deck. Filed under Kevin's name. Uploaded from my home Wi-Fi. I staggered back from the desk. They didn't just cheat. They stole my work, passed it off as Kevin's, and used Alyssa to funnel it through. She was inside my home. Inside my laptop. I had been hacked from my own bed. I walked out of the building, my head pounding. This wasn't about sex. This wasn't about love. This was a coordinated takedown. My wife and my boss didn't just fall into an affair. They orchestrated a coup. And I was the idiot who handed them the tools to do it. I got in my car and sat in silence for a long time. And then a thought crossed my mind. One I couldn't shake. What if this went even deeper? What if Mark wasn't her first? I opened my phone, heart pounding, and started scrolling through our shared cloud backups. Old photos, documents, notes, and then I found a folder I didn't recognize. Hidden, encrypted, password protected. I typed in our anniversary. Access granted. And inside were photos of Alyssa with other men. Different cities, different hotel rooms, different phases of our marriage. Not just Mark. There were more. And one face stood out. My old mentor from my first job. The one who mysteriously stopped returning my calls after recommending me for a position that disappeared overnight. She was doing this long before Mark. I dropped the phone. My wife wasn't just cheating. She was climbing. And I was just the husband she kept around until she didn't need me anymore. I sat there in my car, staring at the photos. Hotel rooms, dinners, boardrooms. Alyssa, with men I recognized. Men who, at one point, had influence over my career. Men who went cold on me for no reason. And now I knew why. She was climbing. One man at a time. Mark wasn't the beginning. And I knew damn well he wouldn't be the end. She used me, my loyalty, my work, my last name, as a cover. To look stable. Respectable. Wife material in the eyes of corporate America. Meanwhile, She was building a quiet empire behind my back. I should have felt broken. But something inside me flipped. I wasn't going to cry anymore. I wasn't going to beg. I was going to burn it all down. I didn't go home that night. Instead, I paid a visit to someone I hadn't spoken to in years, Lena, a former coworker of Alyssa's. They'd had a falling out, something messy, and I remembered Alyssa calling her bitter and jealous. I figured that meant she probably knew everything. Lena opened the door cautiously, but when she saw my face, worn down, cracked open, she just said, "You found out, didn't you?" I nodded once. She let me in, and then she talked, for 3 hours, about the trips Alyssa took under fake consulting names, about how she flirted her way into meetings I was never invited to, how she bragged, about having dirt on important men in case she ever needed leverage. And then Lena said something that stopped my breath. "She's been planning to leave you for months. She's just waiting until she finishes transferring everything into her name." I leaned forward. "What do you mean, everything?" She grabbed her phone, scrolled, and handed it to me. It was an email from Alyssa to a lawyer, drafting divorce papers, requesting full access to our joint account, claiming abuse, mental instability. She wasn't just trying to walk away. She was trying to ruin me on the way out. I stared at the screen, my pulse pounding in my ears. This was never about love. It wasn't even about Mark. It was about control, about power, and she was already 2 steps ahead. But not anymore. I stood up, thanking Lena, and asked one last question. "Does she know you still have this email?" She shook her head. "No. But she'll come looking for me if she finds out you know." I gave her a small smile. "Then she won't know it came from you. Because now, I had leverage." I drove home that night calm, too calm. I walked through the front door. Alyssa was on the couch, glass of red wine in hand, fake sadness on her face. "Where have you been?" she asked, all innocent concern. I smiled. "Just tying up loose ends." She narrowed her eyes. "You're scaring me." I leaned in close. "You should be. Because if she wanted a war, she just got one." For the first time in weeks, I slept like a rock. It's amazing what clarity does to a man. I wasn't heartbroken anymore. I wasn't confused. I was focused. Alyssa thought she had me cornered. She thought she was going to walk away with my money, my work, and the reputation she hadn't earned. But now, I had something she didn't. A timeline, evidence, and a plan. The next morning I made her coffee, like nothing had changed, like I didn't know her betrayal down to the date and the dollar. She took it, sipped, and gave me a fake little smile. "Thank you, babe." I smiled right back. Of course, because this game wasn't over, and I was going to beat her at her own rules. I started by making quiet calls. People in the firm who owed me favors. Lawyers I knew from back when I was helping startups. Within 3 days I had white heavy checkmark, a private investigator.
Félkövérüres pipajel a forensic TED expert.
White heavy checkmark, a new bank account in a name Alyssa didn't know. Then I moved on to the internal systems at work. I knew Mark had my pitch, but what he didn't know was that I'd saved the original file's metadata, and it had a timestamp. My name, my IP address. I emailed it to myself, then to 2 lawyers. Insurance. I wasn't just coming for Alyssa. I was coming for Mark, too. Later that night, I walked into the bedroom. Alyssa was pretending to scroll through Instagram, but I could see the corner of a banking app minimized on her screen. She was watching the account, waiting to make her move. I sat on the edge of the bed. "You ever think about starting over?" I asked. She looked up, startled. "What do you mean?" I shrugged. "I mean, maybe we just walk away from it all. Start fresh. No more fighting. No more games." She studied me. "Where's this coming from?" I smiled. "Maybe I'm just tired of pretending." Her eyes softened. She leaned in, touched my arm. "You're not pretending now, are you?" I met her gaze. "Not anymore." Because everything she was about to do, everything she thought she controlled, I was already ahead of it. The next day, she transferred $20,000 from our joint account to a business fund I'd never heard of. She thought I wouldn't notice. But what she didn't know, I'd already redirected the rest of the account. Split it, froze it, moved what was mine out of reach. She was grabbing for a pot that was already empty. And just when she thought she was in the clear, I sent an anonymous tip to corporate HR with attachments. Screenshots of Mark and Alyssa's texts, their photos, meeting room camera stills, the stolen pitch deck. I didn't even need to put my name on it, because once HR opened that folder, they'd burn themselves. That night, Alyssa came home early. She was pale, shaky. "Something happened at Mark's office," she said, voice tight. They placed him on leave. Some kind of investigation. I played dumb. "Wow, that's insane." She paced the kitchen like a trapped animal. "They're looking through everything. Emails, files. They said someone reported." Her voice trailed off. She turned to me. "Did you say something?" I gave her the same smile she once gave me. "I don't know what you're talking about." And then I walked past her, calm as ever, because she just lost her protector. And now, she's next. She showed up at my office, unannounced, in heels and desperation. Security called up, said, "Your wife's downstairs. Says it's urgent." Wife. That word didn't even sting anymore. I told them to send her up. I wanted to see her eyes when the walls finally collapsed around her. She stepped into my office like she still belonged there, like she could fix this with a smile and a low-cut blouse. But her face was different now. Tired, faded, shaken. "Ethan," she started, walking toward my desk. "We need to talk." I leaned back in my chair. "About what? The offshore account? The fake consulting income? Or how you tried to make me look unstable in court documents?" She froze, just for a second. Then she put on the act. "I made a mistake, okay?" Her voice cracked. Tears started forming, those weaponized tears. "I thought I had to protect myself. I didn't know what you were going to do." I tilted my head. "You mean before or after you slept with my boss and tried to rob me blind?" She stepped closer. "Please, I don't want this to get ugly." I smiled coldly. "Alyssa, it's already ugly. You just finally got a good look at it." Then she played the card I knew was coming, the one she had kept hidden until now. She opened her purse and pulled out a flash drive, laid it on the table like it was a loaded weapon. "What's that?" I asked. She hesitated, then said, "It's footage from the hotel of Mark." My eyes narrowed. "Go on." She leaned in. "It shows him with another employee. She was underage, Ethan. He didn't know it at the time, but if that gets out, he's done." I stayed silent. Alyssa smiled faintly. "I kept it, just in case. And now, I want to trade." I raised an eyebrow. "Trade? I give you this. You make the legal stuff disappear." There it was. Her final power play. Not a wife. Not a victim. Just a woman trying to weaponize the rot she'd been sitting in. I picked up the flash drive, turned it in my hand. "You've had this the whole time?" She nodded slowly. "He was never loyal to me, Ethan. I just wanted to survive." I looked her dead in the eyes. "You don't get to survive me." Her smile fell, because I wasn't going to use this to save her. I was going to use it to bury them both. I stood up, walked to the door, and opened it. "Get out. Ethan. Out." She paused. One last attempt to play the woman I used to love. "You're really going to throw away everything we had?" I stared at her like she was already a memory. "You threw it away the moment you climbed into his bed." And then she was gone. I turned back to the drive, sat at my desk, slid it into my laptop, and hit play. What I saw was worse than I imagined. And what I heard was her voice, coaching the girl, setting it up, recording it all, on purpose. She wasn't just protecting herself. She was blackmailing Mark. Had been for months. She was never a pawn in his game. She was the one pulling the strings. I watched the video twice, not because I had to, because I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Alyssa, coaching a girl barely out of college, flirting with Mark, turning on the camera, smiling, and then stepping out of frame, like she'd done it before. This wasn't damage control. This was a trap. Planned, executed, hidden. And now it was in my hands. She hadn't just betrayed me. She'd been running long cons behind my back for years. Men, promotions, influence. Mark wasn't her downfall. He was just her latest investment. And I was her perfect alibi. The loyal husband. The stable image. The last mask she needed to stay clean. Until now. I called my lawyer. Told him to move forward. Full divorce. Asset freeze. Submission of digital evidence to HR and internal legal. By noon, Mark's reputation was a smoldering crater. Anonymous complaints. Whispers in the building. The video was never released publicly. It didn't have to be. It was handed over quietly, professionally, legally. He was gone within 48 hours. And Alyssa? She finally understood what it felt like to watch everything slip away. I didn't speak to her for days. She called, texted, showed up, begged, then blamed, then threatened. But I said nothing. Until one night, she sent a voice message. Her voice was raw, desperate. You think you won, Ethan? You think any of this makes you better than me? You're just a man who reacted. I was the one playing the game. Then came the part that made my skin crawl. You'll never be free of me. You know that, right? I still have things. And I'll use them. And that's when I realized something. She wasn't broken. She was waiting, watching, planning her return. Because snakes don't die when you cut them in half. They just hide until they can strike again. So I started recording everything. Building my case brick by brick. Because this isn't over. She thinks she still has leverage. She thinks she still has secrets. But the truth is, I'm the only one left holding the match. And I haven't even started the fire yet. She used me to build her empire. Now I'm gonna burn it down with her still inside. This isn't over. But how would you end it? Write your version of part 2 in the comments.